On the 7th and last day of the retreat, there will be no talk. As usual, we will read from different teachers and poets. Selections which put into different words what we have been trying to point at. And maybe live. Most of these selections, if you've been coming here several times or for many years, have not changed, a few additions here and there. So the only thing new that you can bring to it is yourself. New eyes and ears. And then the text will come alive. First few selections are from the Zen teaching of Wang Po, who lived 1,000 years ago in China, recorded by his disciple, who was a Buddhist scholar and the governor of the province where Wang Po lived. He actually built his monastery. I guess they didn't have a fund drive. These selections are not read to present Wang Po per se. There have been abbreviations and sentences, lines, paragraphs, words cut out, so it meshes with what we've been talking about. The first selection is, "The Master said to me, all the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. It is not green nor yellow and has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of new or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, all measures, names, traces, and comparisons. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. It is like the boundless void which cannot be fathomed or measured. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there's no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and so seek externally for Buddhahood. By their very seeking, they lose it. For that is using mind to grasp mind. Even though they do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain to it. People do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, the Buddha will appear before them. Because this mind is Buddha, and Buddha is all living beings. It is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. Our original nature is, in highest truth, devoid of any atom of objectivity. It is void omnipresent, silent, pure. It is glorious and mysterious, peaceful joy, and that is all. Enter deeply into it by awakening to it yourself. That which is before you is it in all its fullness, utterly complete. There is naught beside it. Even if you go through all the stages of a bodhisattva's progress toward Buddhahood, one by one, when at last, in a single flash, you attain to realization, you will only be realizing the Buddha nature which has been with you all the time. And by all the foregoing stages, you will only be realizing, by all the foregoing stages, you will have added to it nothing at all. You will come to look upon those eons of work and achievement as no better than unreal actions performed in a dream. Once I put this question to the Master. How many of the 400 or 500 persons gathered here on this mountain have fully understood your Reverence's teaching? The Master answered, their number cannot be known. Why? Because this way is through mind awakening. How can it be conveyed in words? Speech only produces some effect when it falls on the uninstructed ears of children. When we talk of the knowledge I may gain, the learning I may achieve, my intuitive understanding, my deliverance from rebirth, and my moral way of living, our successes make these concepts seem pleasant to us, but our failures make them appear deplorable. What is the use of all that? I advise you to remain uniformly quiescent and above all activity. Do not deceive yourselves with conceptual thinking, and do not look anywhere for the truth, for all that is needed is to refrain from allowing concepts to arise. It is obvious that mental concepts and external perceptions are equally misleading, and that the way of the Buddhas is as dangerous to you as the way of demons. So, full understanding can come to you only through an inexpressible mystery. The approach to it is called the gateway of the stillness beyond all activity. If you wish to understand, know that a sudden comprehension comes when the mind is purged of all the clutter of conceptual and discriminatory thought activity. Those who seek the truth by means of intellect and learning only get further and further away from it. Not till your thoughts cease all their branching here and there, not till you abandon all thoughts of seeking for something, will you be on the right road. Though others may talk of the way of the Buddhas as something to be reached by various pious practices and by scripture study, you must have nothing to do with such ideas. A perception, sudden as blinking, that subject and object are one, will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding, you will awake to the truth. Your true nature is something never lost to you even in moments of delusion. nor is it gained at the moment of enlightenment. It depends on nothing and is attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, spotless beauty. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. Absolute meaning literally depending on nothing. It is a jewel beyond all price. When a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind and you see it for a dream or an illusion. Let me read that again. When a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind and you see it for a dream or an illusion, then you can enter into the state reached by the Buddhas of the past. Not that the Buddhas of the past really exist, or that the Buddhas of the future have not yet come into existence. Above all, have no longing to become a future Buddha. Your sole concern should be, as thought succeeds thought, to avoid clinging to any of them. And the last selection. But how can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? Or me and you, we can add. By realizing, says Huangpo, by realizing that though you eat the whole day through, no single grain has passed your lip, and that a day's journey has not taken you a single step forward. Also by uniformly abstaining from such notions as self and other. Do not permit the events of your daily lives to bind you, but never withdraw yourselves from them. Avoid the error of thinking in terms of past, present, and future. The past has gone, the present is a fleeting moment, and the future has yet to come. When you practice sitting, sit in the proper position, stay perfectly tranquil, and do not permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. This alone is what is called liberation. Be diligent, be diligent. Few excerpts from Krishnamurti's writing or teachings. From a selection compiled by the Krishnamurti Foundation in India. This is from the Star Bulletin in 1932. Star Bulletin was created for Krishnamurti by the Theosophical Society as his publication for his words, his sayings. So he's addressing the Theosophists. The individual problem is the world problem. If the individual has found happiness, has created order within himself, then he will create order in the world around him. And in helping others to solve their own individual problems, he will help to solve the world problems. You think that in seeking the liberation of the self, there is a suggestion of egotism. You think that to be eternally happy is a selfish realization. You think that to be free from sorrow and strife is a desertion of the world. This is a misconception. Liberation is the very antithesis of the sense of ego, of I-ness. It is the ultimate realization for all people. And in Ojai 1940, I personally feel that the world is myself, that what I do creates either peace or sorrow in the world that is myself. And as long as I do not understand myself, I cannot bring peace to the world. So my immediate concern is myself, not selfishly, not merely to alter myself in order to gain greater happiness, greater sensations, greater successes. For as long as I do not understand myself, I must live in pain and sorrow and cannot discover an enduring peace and happiness. This is in Bombay, 1955. What is this self-knowledge of which you speak, and how can I acquire it? Krishnamurti, you have extraordinary ideas about self-knowledge, that to have self-knowledge you must practice, you must meditate, you must do all kinds of things. It's very simple, sir. The first step is the last step in self-knowledge. The first step is what matters, because self-knowledge is not something you can learn from another. No one can teach you self-knowledge. You have to find out for yourself. It must be your own discovery, and that discovery is not something tremendous, fantastic. It is very simple. After all, to know yourself is to watch your behavior, your words, your gestures, what you do in your everyday relationships. That is all. Begin with that, and you will see how extraordinarily difficult it is to be aware. Just to watch the manner of your behavior, the words you use to your servant, to your boss, the attitude you have with regard to people, to ideas, to things. Just watch your thoughts, your motives in the mirror of relationship. And you will see that the moment you watch, you want to correct it. You say, this is good and that is bad. I must do this, but not that. When you see yourself in the mirror of relationship, your approach is one of condemnation or justification. Therefore, you distort what you see. Whereas, if you simply observe in that mirror your attitude with regard to people, to ideas and to things, if you just see the fact without judgment, without condemnation or acceptance, then you will find that that very perception has its own action. This is the beginning of self-knowledge. It's another selection compiled by the KFA in Ojai. This is London, June 62. Questioner. I find it impossible to be aware all the time. Krishnamurti. Don't be aware all the time. Just be aware in little bits. Please. There is no being aware all the time. That's a dreadful idea. It is a nightmare, this terrible desire for continuity. Just be aware for 1 minute, for 1 second, and in that 1 second of awareness, you can see the whole universe. That's not a poetic phrase. We see things in a flash, in a single moment. But having seen something, we want to capture it, to hold it, to give it continuity. That's not being aware at all. When you say, I must be aware all the time, you've made a problem of it. And then you should really find out why you want to be aware all the time. See the greed it implies, the desire to acquire. And to say, well, I'm aware all the time means nothing. From the flame of attention. It is immensely important to know and to understand the depth and beauty of meditation. Man has always been asking from timeless time whether there is something beyond all thought, beyond all romantic inventions, beyond all time. He's always been asking, is there something beyond all this suffering, beyond all this chaos, beyond wars, beyond the battle between human beings? Is there something that is immovable, sacred, utterly pure, untouched by any thought, by any experience? This has been the inquiry of serious people from the ancient of days. To find that out, to come upon it, meditation is necessary. Not the repetitive meditation that is utterly meaningless. There is a creative energy which is truly religious when the mind is free from all conflict, free from all the travail of thought. To come upon that which has no beginning, no end. That is the real depth of meditation and the beauty of it. A dialogue with Nisargadatta from I Am That. Nisargadatta being of the Hindu Advaita tradition. Different terms. The word self there is used as what the Buddhists call Buddha nature, true self. Questioner. Maharaj, you are sitting in front of me and I am here at your feet. What is the basic difference between us? Nisargadatta, there is no basic difference. Questioner, still there must be some real difference. I come to you, you do not come to me. Nisargadatta, because you imagine differences, you go here and there in search of superior people. Questioner, you too are a superior person. You claim to know the real while I do not. Nisargadatta, did I ever tell you that you do not know and therefore you are inferior? Let those who invented such distinctions prove them. I do not claim to know what you do not. In fact, I know much less than you do. Questioner, your words are wise, your behavior noble, your grace all-powerful. Nisargadatta, I know nothing about it all and see no difference between you and me. My life is a succession of events just like yours. Only I am detached and see the passing show as a passing show, while you stick to things and move along with them. Questioner: what made you so dispassionate? Nisargadatta: nothing in particular. It so happened that I trusted my guru. He told me I am nothing but myself, and I believed him. Trusting him, I behaved accordingly and ceased caring for what was not me nor mine. Questioner: why were you so lucky to trust your teacher fully, while our trust is nominal and verbal? Nisargadatta: who can say? It happened so. Things happen without cause and reason. And after all, what does it matter who is who? Your high opinion of me is your opinion only. Any moment you may change it. Why attach importance to opinions, even your own? Questioner: still, you are different. Your mind seems to be always quiet and happy, and miracles happen around you. Nisargadatta: I know nothing about miracles, and I wonder whether nature admits exceptions to her laws, unless we agree that everything is a miracle. As to my mind, there is no such thing. There is consciousness in which everything happens. It is quite obvious and within the experience of everybody. You just do not look carefully enough. Look well and see what I see. Questioner: what do you see? Nisargadatta: I see what you too could see here and now, but for the wrong focus of your attention. You give no attention to yourself. Your mind is all with things and people and ideas, never with yourself. Bring yourself into focus, become aware of your own existence. See how you function. Watch the motives and the results of your actions. Study the prison you have built around yourself by inadvertence. By knowing what you are not, you come to know yourself. One thing is certain: the real is not imaginary, it is not a product of the mind. Once you are convinced that you cannot say truthfully about yourself anything except I am, and that nothing that can be pointed at can be yourself, the need for the I am is over. You are no longer intent on verbalizing what you are. All you need is to get rid of the tendency to define yourself. All definitions apply to your body only and to its expressions. Once this obsession with the body goes, you will revert to your natural state spontaneously and effortlessly. The only difference between us is that I am aware of my natural state while you are bemused. We are one in being. We differ only in appearance. We discover it by being earnest, searching, inquiring, questioning daily and hourly, by giving one's life to this discovery. Next, an excerpt from Being and Becoming by Vimala Thakur, Indian teacher who used to travel all over the world. Now she is in India, 2 locations. These talks they took place in Dalhousie, summer 1989. Nisargadatta died in the 80s, as did Krishnamurti. We're talking about an alternative way of living, which is a meditative way of living. Acquire knowledge, let it flow through you, let it be utilized in its relevant field without creating a knower. If we look at the roots of all human misery, we will find that misery is built upon our stupidity. Or we can call it stupefaction. We do not know how to relate to the social structures and use them without identification, without creating a sense of authority out of them. Structures are not sacred. It is only life that is sacred. Patterns have no sacredness, whether you create them in the name of religion, spirituality, or politics. It is the pattern-free, structure-free, virgin dynamism of life that is sacred, that is divine. Wherever you have touched it with thought, you have manipulated it, you have structured it. It has utility, but not sanctity. It has a utility, but no authority. Knowledge itself has no power to bind you. It is the creation of the knower that is the obstacle. Me who knows, that's what she means. I know, my knowledge. You have a beautiful, sensitive body, and the sensitivity gets in touch with its respective objects, and they bring sensations. Sensations are converted into electric impulses, and the brain interprets them. It's a marvelous process of what you call experiencing. Contact with the outside world through the senses, which are very delicate, very tender. It is quite hard and arduous work to keep your sensual system pure, healthy, supple, and elastic. Let the experience flow through the sensual system. Nothing wrong in a sensual sexual experience, but you create an experiencer. Let's say thought creates an experiencer and gets stuck in the experience and its likes and dislikes. If the sensual contact with objects is allowed to flow through you without creating an experiencer, then the limited human-made world cannot corrupt you. You acquire knowledge and appear as an individual, playing the role of father, brother, mother, son. You are one appearing as many. There's no identification with the fatherness, the sonness, the daughterness, sisterness. You don't tie so many knots inside, but play the role sanely, completely. The word meditation has been identified with psychophysical exercises, with concentrations, with methods, techniques, kundalini, shakti paths. The word has been abused and misused in a callous way. No authority and no effort. Freedom from authority and freedom from the struggle of efforts. Once you know that these human-made enclosures are only to be lived in, Then the sense of comparing yourself with others. He has a palace and I have a hut. He has millions and I only have thousands. These are rupees. The sense of comparison and the ambition and competition disappears. Your economic life becomes simple. No vanity, no pride about your scholarship, your erudition, and your social life becomes simple. You do not move around with a begging bowl for sympathy, acceptance, prestige, acknowledgement. Meditation has no repetition at all. It is moment to moment. In the moment of relating, you are living. In the moment of aloneness, you're dying. It is living and dying, like inhaling and exhaling. To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody or being something. Is not that the content of death and dying? To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody, a sinner, a saint, holy, knowledgeable, respected, rich, poor. To be alone is to die to being something according to the definition of society, according to the value structure of religions. Physically isolating yourself may not lead you to the aloneness. It may not. That is what we are afraid of, dying to the sense of being somebody. Dying to all the images that you have built up about yourself is being alone. The way we are tackling the theme may be unusual, unheard of to many. It is a non-conventional way, a non-traditional approach. But I am really grateful that life brings you and me together. Now a bit of poetry. From The Enlightened Heart, edited by Stephen Mitchell. It doesn't say the enlightened mind, it says the enlightened heart. Rumi. Everybody knows Rumi these days. It was an Afghan, lived 1207 to 1273. I have lived on the lip of insanity, wanting to know reasons, knocking on a door. It opens. I've been knocking from the inside. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. outside the freezing desert night. This other night inside grows warm, kindling. Let the landscape be covered with thorny crust. We have a soft garden in here. The continents blasted, cities and little towns, everything become a scorched blackened ball. The news we hear is full of grief for that future. But the real news inside here is there is no news at all. Some poems by Ryokan, 1758, 1831. Japanese hermit, poet. He lived in the mountains, freezing in the wintertime, waiting for spring. And here, first days of spring, the sky is bright blue, the sun huge and warm. Everything is turning green. Carrying my monk's bowl, I walk to the village to beg for my daily meal. The children spot me at the temple gate and happily crowd around, dragging at my arms till I stop. I put my bowl on a white rock, hang my bag on a branch. First we braid grasses and play tug of war. Then we take turns singing and keeping the kickball in the air. I kick the ball and they sing. They kick and I sing. Time is forgotten, the hours fly. People passing by point at me and laugh. Why are you acting like such a fool? I nod my head and don't answer. I could say something, but why? Do you want to know what's in my heart? From the beginning of time, just this, just this. More Ryokan from One Robe, One Bowl. An evening dream. Everything must have been an illusion. I cannot explain clearly even one part of what I saw. Yet, in the dream, it seemed as if the truth were in front of my eyes. This morning, awake, is it not the same dream? A few more spring poems. They say spring has come and the sky is filled with mist. Yet on the mountains, no flowers, only snow. Awakened by the cold, a light snow falls. The sound of wild geese. They also are returning home with hardship and suffering. Standing on a cliff, among the pines and oaks, spring has come, clothed in mist. Everywhere you look, the mountains are covered with mist and blooming cherry trees. How can we ever lose interest in life? Spring has come again, and cherry trees bloom in the mountains. A thief has stolen my mat and cushion. Why did he break into my hermitage? The door is never locked. The night is ending, and I sit alone by the window. A sparse rain falls gently against the bamboo grove. Lying on my grass pillow, dreaming about this dream world again. Lonely, fitful sleep. As I watch the children happily playing, without realizing it, my eyes fill with tears. Thinking about the people in this floating world far into the night, my sleeve is wet with tears. The thief left it behind. The moon at the window. A few poems by Mary Oliver, contemporary poet. This one from White Pine. Work. It's called Work. How beautiful this morning was Pasture Pond. It had lain in the dark all night, catching the rain on its broad back. All day I work with a linen of words and the pins of punctuation. All day I hang out over a desk, grinding my teeth, staring. Then I sleep. Then I come out of the house, even before the sun is up, and walk back through the pine woods to Pasture Pond. From House of Light, and one from Selected Poems, or New and Old, I don't know what this other one is called. New and Selected Poems. The kingfisher, that's a bird. A bird that eats fish. The kingfisher rises out of the black wave like a blue flower. In his beak he carries a silver leaf. I think this is the prettiest world. So long as you don't mind a little dying, how could there be a day in your whole life that doesn't have its splash of happiness? There are more fish than there are leaves on 1,000 trees. And anyway, the kingfisher wasn't born to think about it or anything else. When the wave snaps shut over his blue head, the water remains water. Hunger is the only story he has ever heard in his life that he could believe. I don't say he's right. Neither do I say he's wrong. Religiously, he swallows the silver leaf with its broken red river, and with a rough and easy cry I couldn't rouse out of my thoughtful body if my life depended on it, he swings back over the bright sea to do the same thing, to do it as I long to do something, anything, perfectly. Singapore. In Singapore, in the airport, a darkness was ripped from my eyes. In the women's restroom, one compartment stood open. A woman knelt there washing something in the white bowl. Disgust argued in my stomach, and I felt in my pocket for my ticket. A poem should always have birds in it. Kingfishers say, with their bold eyes and gaudy wings. Rivers are pleasant, and of course, trees. A waterfall, or if that's not possible, a fountain rising and falling. A person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. When the woman turned, I could not answer her face. Her beauty and her embarrassment struggled together, and neither could win. She smiled, and I smiled. What kind of nonsense is this? Everybody needs a job. Yes, a person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. But first we must watch her as she stares down at her labor, which is dull enough. She's washing the tops of the airport ashtrays, as big as hubcaps, with a blue rag. Her small hands turn the metal, scrubbing and rinsing. She does not work slowly nor quickly, but like a river. Her dark hair is like the wing of a bird. I don't doubt for a moment that she loves her life. And I want her to rise up from the crust and the slop and fly down to the river. This probably won't happen. But maybe it will. If the world were only pain and logic, who would want it? Of course it isn't. Neither do I mean anything miraculous, but only the light that can shine out of a life. I mean, the way she unfolded and refolded the blue cloth, the way her smile was only for my sake. I mean, the way this poem is filled with trees and birds. And lastly, the sun. Have you ever seen anything in your life more wonderful than the way the sun every evening, relaxed and easy, floats toward the horizon and into the clouds or the hills or the rumpled sea and is gone? And how it slides again out of the blackness every morning on the other side of the world, like a red flower streaming upward on its heavenly oils, say, on a morning in early summer at its perfect imperial distance. And have you ever felt for anything such wild love? Do you think there is anywhere in any language a word billowing enough for the pleasure that fills you as the sun reaches out, as it warms you, as you stand there empty-handed? Or have you too turned from this world? Or have you too gone crazy for power, for things? We will end here for today.